Hey guys! It has been a while since I have last been grocery shopping. It's been a little over a week, so I'm getting towards the end of, the things that I have in my fridge. And I've made all the recipes that I intend on making in this cycle, and I find myself, as I often do, with some leftover ingredients that I need to use up. Anyway, I have here, this was sort of the impetus behind making this. This is a poblano pepper. So I made red beans and rice, Chef John's recipe. It's really nice, by the way. But the recipe called for 3/4 of a cup of minced poblano, and I had no idea how many poblanos that would be, so I bought 3, so that I would know that I had enough. Turns out that 1 poblano makes 3/4 of a cup of minced poblano, so I have 2 poblanos left over. So I'm gonna make, this is something that I make a lot. It's just potato sauteed with pepper. It's usually sweet pepper, because I often get that for recipes, but this time it happens to be poblano. The very minimalist version of this is whatever animal fat I happen to have rendered. This is goose fat left over from our Christmas goose. I really want to use this up. It's almost done. I often add an egg on the side to turn it into a more filling meal. I would use, and I'm going to use when I make this tomorrow off camera, these leftover egg whites that I have from a recipe of tiramisu that I made that uses egg yolks, but it won't look pretty in the thumbnail, so I'm going to go with a whole egg for this video, but I am going to use these tomorrow. Other things I need to use up, I have this half a block of cotija cheese from when I made tacos earlier this week, and then I have this little bit of lime that I think would just be nice. It would brighten things up, and it's left over. Also from my pantry I have some garlic, some salt, and some spices. So let's cook it. So first I have heated my pan on medium-high heat, and I'm going to add some of this goose fat. There, I added all of it. I used it up. Now while my pan is heating, I will chop up these ingredients. So poblano peppers, if you've never had them, they're great. A lot of recipes that call for cooked green bell pepper don't use green bell pepper. It's disgusting when you cook it. Use poblano instead. Or if you're a spice wimp, because poblanos can be a little bit spicy, use those little mini sweet peppers that come in bags at the grocery store. They're quite cheap and they last a long time in your fridge. And you can make this dish out of those peppers as well. But the red beans and rice called for poblano, so that's what I happen to have. A lot of chefs on YouTube and TV are like, oh, you have to be very careful to get all the ribs out and seeds and whatever, and I don't care. It's not that bad to leave a little tiny bit of ribbage in there. It's not going to ruin your dish. I don't know, if you really hate that, then bother to do it, but I don't care. I think it's fine. It's a lot faster and easier to make. And also, I don't worry too much about all the pieces being exactly the same size. As long as they're roughly the same size, you're good. And now the potato. I always keep Yukon Gold potatoes as a staple in my fridge because they last a very long time, and they're quite versatile because they're sort of half waxy, half starchy. So that you can make fries out of them, you can make not sweet potatoes, you can make mashed potatoes out of them, and you can make potato salad out of them, and you can do this with them. They are a lot tastier if you fry them by parboiling them first, but that's an extra step and it involves dirtying a pot, and who wants to do that? So I just dice them raw into little cubes like this, and just the smaller you cut them, the faster they cook. That's why I cut them kind of on the smaller side. This is probably going to crowd my pan, but oh well. And I'm just going to mince the garlic. One thing I like about older garlic is the peel comes off pretty easily. Okay, and now my goose fat is starting to sputter a little bit, and it's ready for the potatoes. I put this in stages. I do the potatoes first since they take the longest to cook. You don't even technically need to cook the poblano, you can eat raw poblano, but you cannot eat raw potatoes, so I put that in first. And at this point I just make sure that it's spread out evenly at the bottom of the pan so that all the pieces of potato are making contact. And then I salt it. And then, this is important, I cover it. And I don't know how many minutes I cook this. I don't use recipes, I do it by vibes and by feel. Basically, you want to cover this and cook this on medium-high, and it'll steam because it's covered, but it'll also saute, so it'll get brown on the bottom and it'll start to cook through. So I let this steam on its own for I don't know, 2 to 5 minutes. It's been a couple minutes and I'm just going to check on the potatoes. You see? Starting to get a little color on them already. Not too much though, so I think they can go for another minute or two. Okay, now, beautiful color. So once the potatoes have browned, give them a toss and then add the peppers. Cumin, coriander, a little paprika for color. If you have extra herbs lying around in your fridge, you can throw them in. I add cilantro often. Scallions are really good in this too. Any like onion that you have lying around that's cut open that's going to go bad, you can put onion in here as well. I don't happen to have any cut up onion at the moment, so I'm going to add garlic later. And at this point, I like to keep it uncovered. There's enough moisture from the peppers and the potatoes that they can cook pretty well. But I feel it. If it doesn't really feel like it's cooking properly, I'll cover it. Maybe I'll cover it for 1 or 2 minutes and then I'll uncover it. Again, no recipe, vibes only. Meanwhile, I have this little chunk of cotija that I cut off. And if you don't know what cotija is like, it's kind of like a mix between Parmesan cheese and feta, and you can just sort of crumble it into little crumbles like this. So I'm gonna crumble it. Whee! You can buy it pre-crumbled, of course, but I think it's more expensive that way, and it's generally just not as good, so I buy it in a block. Okay, it's a couple minutes later, and already the potatoes are mostly done. You just poke a few potatoes, and if the fork goes through perfectly fine without any resistance, they are done. Look at that beautiful color. And the peppers are starting to get soft. I don't really care. Again, you can eat peppers raw, so I don't really care if they're like cooked all the way or not. I kind of like them to have some crunch left in them. So this is almost done. This whole dish takes about 15 to 20 minutes start to finish. That partly depends on how small you cut your potatoes. I cut mine pretty small. You could also grate them, but that requires dirtying up a cheese grater and tiring your wrist and breaking your fingernails on the grater, so I prefer to just cut them. And you want to be gentle when you stir it at this point because you might break up the potatoes. And like, you can do this with any potato, but I actually do not recommend that you do it with a starchy potato like a russet, because you can make mashed potatoes pretty easily, and not in a good way. It'll make your pan very difficult to clean. Just gonna let that hang out on a warm plate. My pan is smoking hot. Just gonna scrape any spice and potato starch. And I'm gonna add a little duck fat. Salt, little pepper. So confession, I do not like sunny side up eggs, but I'm making a sunny side up egg because it'll look prettier on the thumbnail. I usually like to smash my yolk and then let it cook sort of medium so it's jammy. I don't like them cooked hard. I just don't like them like sunny side up. On second thoughts, this probably would have looked better with 2 eggs. Oh well, too late. A squeeze of lime, and more hit of brightness and saltiness, some cotija. And that is my potato pepper with egg. Make it for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It's a nice light meal anytime. Time to use up my egg whites. It looks like so much more food, but egg whites have hardly any calories. Ta-da! Anyway, this is delicious, especially with all the seasonings. You can use whatever kinds of spices you like, customize it to your liking, use any kind of extra pepper that you have. Anyway, that's it. Bye! I'm gonna go eat the rest of this.